Hey everyone, today's conversation is with Sophia Vinecombe. Her story today is a powerful one. We touch on her walk with Christ, how she overcame hardships in her life, and raising her children in faith. If you would like the opportunity to share your story, contact me at thebeaconspodcast@gmail.com or head into Hinterland Baptist Church in Worongary, Gold Coast on Sunday mornings at 9:30 a.m. and speak to me direct. Thanks so much for watching. Here is Sophia's Beacon. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
Thanks for being a second guest on the podcast. Like I say, it's just kind of explaining your story and whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
I want your story to connect with other people, basically. Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about your early life, where you grew up, and did you have any connection to Christ, or what was your upbringing like?
So my upbringing was actually, I was born in South Africa, and my family we are a very big Christian family, like everyone in our family believes. So I grew up in church. It was quite a conservative church. I don't really know what the denomination is here, but it's very similar to Baptist, but we never had like adult baptisms. So it's always when you were a child type of thing. They never pushed that. But it was went to Sunday school all the way through my life, went to church every week. There was nothing funny about being a Christian in South Africa because most people were. It's like the standard thing to do. It's only when I grew up where I realized like life is actually quite secular. But I feel a lot of the Christians that I was around, even at school, you know, we went to public schools, but we had Christianity in school as well. So everyone was Christian. Mm. But if I had to look at the Christian life, it was very lukewarm. Like it wasn't passion full of devout Christians. And I always felt it's kind of weak. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think in that way, I came from quite a dysfunctional family. My dad was an alcoholic. So my mum kind of played two roles, but my dad was a believer and we had many deaths in our family. So quite a lot of people died in a very short period of time. And through that time, I could see the presence of God there. So I've always been a firm believer in God, but in my trauma that I've gone through in my life, I fell off the rails a lot of the times. And I then had to get back up and then go on the same road again and then fall off the rails. So my life in Christianity went kind of like this.
Yeah.
And even up until today, it's very difficult for me, but I do believe in God, and I believe that He is the only way forward, although it's not always easy.
Yeah. And so, growing up, you said like you had your alcoholic father and lots of deaths, and so you believed in God, but were you very connected to God at that time? Did you pray a lot about what was happening in your personal life?
Not really. We had lots to do with the pastors, with the deaths, and the families stood together, but I can't really say, especially in my 20s, that I really connected with God that well. I was pretty far away from Him because my life was a mess. So it took me a few years to finally, find my feet again. So no, I wouldn't say I was praying and, dropping down on my knees, but I always had that thing in the back of my head. Every single time I did anything wrong, it bothered me. Every single time. There's something more than just doing something that's not right.
Yeah.
Because you feel accountable, but I just closed it down by doing things, always distracting, to move away from that feeling of, I want to repent. I want to be closer to God. There's something always distracted me away from that. And I don't know why. It's still like that question's still there. But the more I'm growing in faith now in my 40s, I'm actually realizing why that's pulling me forward and what's giving me the wisdom in that, because we are fighting a battle, and throughout my life I felt this worthlessness. Like it's worthlessness has been a big thing throughout, like every relationships I've been in and how life has treated me. I felt like I'm just not worthy enough. And then the other day I was thinking, and I was sitting there at home and I'm going, I have to be worth something, because Satan is fighting for my soul the whole time. because that's why I'm battling. God's got me, and I know I'm in him, but Satan wants me, and that has to make me worthy. So I've just completely changed my way about worth, which makes it a lot better now.
Were your friends growing up Christian as well? Because I know you said that like it was generally in South Africa. It's like in the UK, it was kind of like you say, it didn't, in South Africa, it wasn't kind of funny. It was like everyone was Christian.
Yeah.
In the UK growing up, I kind of found it had tipped that line. Like it was kind of funny and kind of.
Oh yeah. No, so everyone was Christian, but everyone was doing the wrong thing.
So it was more just like
you do whatever you want, you party and you go to church on Sunday, hungover.
Yeah.
It's just the way it was.
Yeah.
And so there wasn't deep connection with God. We spoke about God all the time. You know, we called ourselves Christian, and it is just the way it is. And it just like, that's what I meant by lukewarm.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's just not, there's no depth in it. And not in my family. My mum is really devout Christian, you know, like my sisters but friends definitely lukewarm if I have to look back at it. Yeah, you can't really distinguish whether they're Christian or not. So I've only recently been involved around this community, especially this church, where I can really see the difference between people that's Christian and people that's not Christian. Yeah.
So what was the sort of turning point, I guess, from going lukewarm? Because if you had plenty of deaths and alcohol abuse, etc., your father, what was the turning point? Did each hardship essentially
drew me closer? Yeah, I would say so, but I was quite young, so I was still in my late teens, early 20s. I think my faith only really started growing when I moved to Australia, which is weird because it's way more secular here.
When was that?
And that was in 2011 when we moved to Adelaide. I joined a church there, a Baptist church in Unley, and that's where my faith really started growing more and more. And then obviously I got married, and then I had this tumultuous marriage. But I did find Christ a lot more in that pain because he was the only thing that gave me hope. I think through the deaths with the age thing, it was hardship. But when I was really faced with difficulties on a day-to-day, especially once I had my children, that's where the big move started, moving more towards God. And ever since I went to that church, like for many years, I kept feeling like I want to get baptized. And it took years, and eventually I did it. And it was this year. Yeah. So I would say only then my faith really took a better turn.
Yeah.
That it's more stable. Yeah.
Did you get baptized on the same day?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we did. We were a big group.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So your ex-husband,
yeah.
Was he Christian?
No, he wasn't. No.
How did that affect your relationship a lot? Could you feel that tension?
He wasn't against it.
Yeah.
And that was one of the prerequisites before we got married, because I say to him, if I'm ever going to marry you, I want to have the freedom to bring my children up in the church. It was one of the things that I said, otherwise I'm not going to marry you. But then his mum came to faith because she got cancer. And her journey through her faith was a big step for me to get stronger in my faith as well. So we were the only two people really that was faithful. So he was never against it. He went to rehab and then he found God there. But as life happens, it just didn't stick. And yeah, he went further away and I kind of went closer to God.
Yeah. So tell us more about any seasons of struggle in your life and how you felt that God was the only one to help.
Yeah. So I was in a very, very low point. Probably 2 years before we got divorced. And I just felt, and I was just praying to God. Like I prayed to God so much just to save my marriage. It was like the one thing. And I just, you pray and you pray and you can't, nothing's happening. And then it didn't work out. And then when that split and I made that wrong decision at that moment and I went through the separation, I hit the lowest point. I was about to take my own life. That's how bad it was. I was mentally not in a good place. And the only way I was able to get out of that was through just getting on my knees and just praying, because I think it was more guilt that didn't want me to pray. Like I was kind of pulled away from it, and then I thought, but this is not it, and it took me ages. But then through the foundation, which I would think that, when I say like when we were Christian as kids, the foundation was laid. So I knew that was what I had to, fall back onto, and that guided me into the right way and just doing the thing, even if it was difficult, just going to church. Sometimes I would go to church and I go, look, I don't know how I'm in church because I feel so dirty. And I just kept going and I built relationships with people here, and I started going to the Bible study group, and that's where I realized like the only hope is God. And even now when it's hard, He's the only hope. And that gives me so much pleasure to know that I've got that.
So you reached that real low point in your life.
Yeah.
And so God was the last resort for you, essentially.
Yeah, and He was the answer. He was the one that made me back off on certain things, because in my rage and obviously my pain, I wanted to be vindictive and I wanted to get back, and it just became a battle, and he just kept saying, let it go. This is not your battle to win anymore, it's mine. And once I felt that, and once I got that, encouragement and just the way of His way, it became easier to just let go, because my biggest issue is I want to control. It's not in my control.
So how do you keep your faith alive today, knowing what you've learned through these hardships? What do you do today when you start to feel like sort of a wobble sort of thing,
I talk a lot to God. I switch off my music in my car. I drive quite a bit with my kids dropping off, and I just have this thing that I just no music, no nothing, and I just talk to God. And I also run, and my running has been my therapy. So although I have music sometimes in my ears when I'm running, I'm constantly praying to God. So that's how I keep my relationship. And I just drop down to my knees, like literally drop down to my knees, because it's like I said before, it's a continuous battle. It's a journey. It's something that, because I think we get so bombarded with the outside world and all the distractions, and it's so easy that we forget that we need to find that alone time with God to actually build a relationship. And I didn't do it for so many years, and until now, where I feel like I've got getting more wisdom from that quiet time, because you can be in church, you can be around the church people, you can, be faithful around your children, you can do that, but it's all noise at the end of the day. And I just find now I just want to switch off and have that time, even if it's just that 15 minutes in the morning when I sit outside and I'm having my coffee. I tell my children, look, this is my time. I need my time just to be with Him.
Yeah.
And I think once I started implementing those specific times for Him, it's definitely helping me to grow more in faith and build that relationship. Yeah.
And has your faith changed since having children?
Yeah.
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 How old are your children?
10 and 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you try and keep God at the center of family life?
So because we split the children now 50-50, it is my only duty to do as much as I can in the 50% I have them. So my goal, we always talk about God there's always a God conversation at some point in our house. We always say grace together, and I pray for my kids before they go to bed. We talk about what they go to a Christian school, and we always elaborate on their Christian studies to try and form a story for them as well, so that we can talk about it. And I always make sure that my children know that I'm 100% a believer in God. Don't do everything right. And I say that I make mistakes, a lot of mistakes, but God is my center, and I try to live that with, so that they can see that as, as something that they can look up to. Like I said, I don't always get this right, but I try. I feel sometimes I wish somebody can give me a manual on how to do this, but it's for them, they know I believe, and that's the most important bit. And my family believes, and my ex-husband's mother believes, so she does a lot of work. So we would talk to each other about how we introduce God and faith into their lives as well, so that we can build that foundation, because the foundation, unfortunately, at this point is 50% of the time, because when they go to their dads, there's no talk of God, there's no prayers, there's nothing. So I feel like it's quite a big battle for me to fight for faith, but I can only live by example. That's, yeah.
And of course, when they grow up, do you think about how culture may affect them? Because they'll have to obviously make their own decision on their faith, which what you're doing now to me sounds fantastic, because they are going to probably make their own decision at some point.
Yeah. Well, this is kind of what I can draw back on is, as a child, my parents, my mum built the foundation for me. So even though I went completely off the rails, I have God. So I have to believe that God will take care of them through their journey. I don't know what they're going to do with it, and I can't control it. But I can be there as a support there. And I'm just thinking, if my children are in church every fortnight and they are around people that's Christian, their friends, they go to Christian schools, but 50% or 80% is not Christian. So you can only hope that you can lay it at home and with the church family. And I've had I can get anxiety about it, but that's also something that I've learned through God, this is, once again, it's out of my control, so why am I getting anxious about it? So that's why I'm just, I'm going to do my best, what I can, and then leave it to God. Because it is a tough gig for a mum. Like it's hard, because you want your children to not make the same mistakes as me. Like I don't want them to go through what I went through, because it was hell. But I can't make those choices for them. They need to do it.
And what would be one piece of advice for them to take into their future, when they grow up? One piece of advice about faith.
He was, one piece of advice. I almost want, I don't know if this is going to sound right, but I almost want to say it doesn't matter what you do in your life, just keep going to church. Like, even if you're not right, even if it's not feeling right, but if you just have that as a habitual thing to do, be around Christians, go to church even though it's difficult, even though you don't want to rather go to the beach, like just go to church for those 2 hours your day, because that embeds something that's permanent. So that's what I would strive for my children to do when they grow older, because that is such a good, to be around Christians is better than to be around secular people all the time, because the chances of you growing in faith more is a lot bigger.
Absolutely.
To then become a light for other people.
Yeah, you start your week with, like you say, 2 hours of wisdom.
Exactly,
and something about just getting around people and singing in the morning, even if you're not actually singing. There's something powerful about that. It starts your week just perfect. That's what I found in this church. And so do you have a piece of scripture that you brought with you that best describes your life? Or?
So I don't have a specific, I'm not one of those people that I can't do the verses thing. I've never been able to do that. But just Proverbs has been a very difficult task for me to read. But Proverbs 8, where they talk about wisdom has really guided me through growing in faith over the last few months, with my, just the battles that I've been going through. And where God says in James verse 5, I think it's James 1 verse 5, where he says that you can ask for that wisdom and he will give it to you, because this is the thing that we need as Christians, because if we can understand that better, we make better decisions. It resonates so much with me. And it is actually quite funny because Christine, Chris pastor, his wife, like, when she said read Proverbs, I was like, oh, I've been in, I had a terrible breakup with my husband, and it's all about like adultery and like, I had to go into that whole thing. But then I got to chapter 8, and I just thought, wow, this is what we need. This is what we need to understand. And then it opens up so much more. So yeah.
Yeah, nice. And have you read the story of King Solomon?
I have, but yeah.
Yeah, that's who wrote.
Yeah, he wrote Proverbs.
But yeah, he asked for wisdom, and God gave him that. And he said, you know what? Because you asked for wisdom and not for things.
Yeah.
Specific things. Have the rest as well. So it's kind of like James.
Yeah.
Saying, ask for wisdom.
Yeah.
Wisdom first. Have a relationship with God.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think when you have the wisdom, nothing really else matters that much anymore, because then you don't have to cling to things that's not worthy, It's like I had to go through a long process of, disconnecting myself from the world. So, yeah, this has been really good for me.
Yeah. Do you find the more you're reading the Bible, it's like, this has been here the whole time? Like,
yeah, I know. It's like, why did we not read more?
Yeah. And there's so many different ways to consume the Bible. Like one of my friends, he's like, oh, I can't read it, I've got to listen to it. And some people will just say, watch Chosen, or like, find some sort of media to consume it. And, but yeah, there's so many different ways you can.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, what I've realized now, because I've decided I'm switch my phone off at 8:00 at night from now on, just because I just don't want to be distracted. I actually want to feel boredom to see what I do.
Yeah.
And I used to read the Bible on my phone. And I've actually now realized how distracted I got because of all the notifications that would come up on my phone whilst I'm reading the Bible, which doesn't connect me. And now, for the first time in a long time, I'm picking up the Bible and there's no distraction. It's just me and God. So it's definitely embedding more substance, I think. Yeah.
I got one more question. Sorry, I completely forgot that. Like, 'cause the baptism day was so powerful. Like, it was just, I can't even barely describe it. But how did that day feel for you? Because we were down at Talabudgera Creek on Easter Sunday.
Yeah, it was amazing, and I think the day was great. Building up, my change that I felt the most power in was the day I actually made the decision to do it. The baptism itself wasn't as powerful for me as the day that I said I was going to do it out loud. It's kind of a bit of an anticlimax. I know it's kind of weird, but I mean, being around people once again, that made it amazing. But yeah, I had a different feel about it, but it was still beautiful, if you know what I mean. But like, just making the decision and knowing that you want to follow God, I think that was more the essence of it for me.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being so honest and telling your story. Yeah, do you mind if I just pray for us really quick?
Yeah, that'll be great. Thank you.
Cool. I'm still not great at it, but I'll try. Dear Father in heaven, thank you so much for this conversation with Sophia, and thank you for her honesty, her story. And Lord, I pray that her story reaches someone who may have a similar situation or going through hardships. And Lord, I thank you so much for being with us today. I love you. Jesus Christ, it's through your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.